All right. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the 9450, brought to you by the 9450. We are your host, 21 Titles. I am Brittany, and this is my co-host,
Chanteé.
And Beyond the 9450 covers all things business of sports, from NIL to WNBA business to college. We cover it all, and we cover all sectors. But today we kind of have a special episode. I would probably say this is like an interview style kind of episode. We have our first sports agent here with us today, the lovely Chauntiel Smith Jones of Capture Sports Agency. And this is a first for us, so we're very excited to have you here today, Chauntiel. And I guess we'll just get into it, right, Chanteé?
Yeah,
All
we
right.
will. So, Chanteé, I guess we could just start off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself. And yeah, let's just start there.
All right. So, shout out DA because I am from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne, Indiana, born and raised. Big sports head. Like I said, played basketball, ran track. Um, Ended up getting a Fulbright scholarship to run track. At Indiana Tech, which is a NAIA school. Um, and during my time there, I ended up getting my internship there. Where I interned at this small agency down in Dallas, and then that's when I created my own sports agency. My senior year in college, and then after that, or while running track there, I became a three-time national champion as well as a Hall of Famer. And now I'm also coaching there. This is like my fifth season, coaching the track team there too as well.
Major, big time. That's why we're so excited to have you. So can you tell us a little bit about, because I did hear that basketball was your first passion. So how did you, I guess, make that transition, or when did you make that transition into track? Like, and how was that just, balancing both sports at the
Yeah.
same time?
So yeah, all I knew was basketball until I got to high school. Because my middle school didn't have a track team. All they had was cross country, and to me, cross country sounds like you're running across the country. So for me, that was a no go. Wasn't happening. So when I got to high school, basketball season was over. And some of my basketball friends was like, what are you doing next? Like, we got softball, we got tennis, and all this other type stuff. And they're like, why don't you do track? I'm like, what is track? Like, who does that? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So, one of my good friends introduced me to track. My freshman year in high school, I went out. Was actually kind of good at it. I went to state twice. My junior and senior year. My junior year, I ended up placing fifth. At states running a 56 in the 400. So, like I said, got pretty good at it. Ended up getting a scholarship for it. I probably could have went D1, but with the situation of not knowing about recruiting and in a single parent home, wasn't going to go visit nobody. Had to watch your siblings, stuff like that. So, ended up just staying home, and running track at like I said, at Indiana Tech at the NAIA level.
Can I just ask, was the 400 your only event?
No. In high school, I ran everything. The 100, the 200, the 4x1, the 4x4, the 400, and I think they threw me in the 800 a couple times. I did a 4x2. I did a sprint medley relay type thing. In high school, they put you in everything. So I was fast, as they say. They hated it in basketball season because I had all the
Yeah,
endurance in the world.
right. You zooming past everybody, your stamina's probably up. Like, yeah, that's crazy. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah.
So what was your introduction to basketball then? Like, who introduced you to it? How did you get interested in it?
So, I believe my mom gave me a basketball like when I was at the age of 3, and I would just be outside my grandma's house just bouncing the ball. Like that was it. And then there would be times like it's winter time. I would probably try to go up to the park, shoot the basketball with frostbite on my hands, and that was not cool. Wondering why the ball wasn't going in the basket because it was freezing outside. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I got started. With knowing what basketball was my mom putting that basketball in my hands and me just dribbling the ball up and down the sidewalks and stuff like that. And then during those winter seasons, you get one dry day where it ain't no snow on the ground. You go up to the park and try to shoot in the hoops, and it's freezing. So,
So, can you tell us a little bit about just your journey to Indiana Tech then? Because you did mention that, you didn't have the opportunity to really seek out other schools or visit schools and things of that nature. So, can you tell us a little bit about that journey? Because we think it's important
yeah,
to let student athletes know, because a lot of them also are not aware of like the process. Maybe now more than before when we
yeah,
were a little younger. But if you could share that, that would be great.
yeah, for sure. So, um, as I was in high school, I didn't start reaching out because, like I said, my parents didn't know I was first generation. So nobody knew about any of this. So it's like my senior year, and I'm just now starting to look at schools and reach out to schools and stuff. And at this point, it's kind of
Mm,
late.
right.
So but again, nobody in my family knew. We didn't know what we were doing. There were people sending mail and everything, and we were like, okay, don't know what this means, right? And some people were like, you can come on a visit, but it was like my mom works third shift. I'm not coming on no visit, and I didn't have nobody else to take me. So um I think when you know things earlier, or even when you have like a coach who knows the process, right? I think it makes it a little bit easier um to navigate, because I feel like the point was, one, I was in a single parent household, and then I also didn't have a coach that knew the process. Like, I was just out there running just to run.
Right.
Didn't know what was going to happen afterwards or anything like that. Like, I think I signed to go to Indiana Tech darn near at the last minute. Like, it was in July and school started in August, and I signed in July. Like, that was late. uh but like I said, that's because I didn't know anything. So outside of that, like, I would reach out to schools. Like, one of my as you call, I guess, your college counselor or something like that in high school, was pretty much telling me like, hey, you need to reach out to see, what schools you want to go to, and this, that, and the third, and start sending them things and stuff like that. I didn't really know what I was supposed to be sending them. So I really was just reaching out to schools, figuring out what if my times fit what they were looking for, whatever case may be. I really wasn't looking at the grades and stuff. I was just worried about running. um, so outside of that, like, I think I had an offer to Richmond, um, Virginia, to run track, but then never took it because I never took that visit to get there. So the process was very difficult then, right? There was no social media. Um, no coaches was reaching out like that way. Like,
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Whew.
like people making commitment posts and stuff. He wasn't doing that in
Talk
2011.
about it. Talk about it. I was like, oh, this
Oh,
is
God.
new.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, we wasn't doing that either. So
Yeah. So it was different. Like, very different from how it is now.
It's almost as if now is like a show. Like
Yeah.
we putting on a show.
Your top tens, your top 20s, like top
And
five.
none of that really matters. That don't matter. It's just, and what matters is really what you produce. Like like me and Chanteé talk about it all the time. Like, going from high school to college, they're two totally
Hmm.
different things.
Yep.
There's an adjustment period, there's a curve, right?
Hmm.
And I don't think people that are not in it, they don't understand
Yeah.
that part of it. So to hear you talk about that, like, that just, it resonates because that was our time also. Like,
Yeah.
all we had to do was put in the work. We didn't really have social media to kind of market ourselves or like, you know, do the outreach. Like outreach is the gap has kind of closed with that because of social media. So
a lot.
Just hearing, yes. So just hearing you say that just brought back a couple of memories.
Listen, the adjustment I feel like is on for every sport. Like what you did in high school is not the same thing that you're gonna do in college. Like it's a totally different ball game. And a lot of high schoolers come in thinking that it's gonna be the same.
Right. It's an adjustment.
Yes.
You want to talk about your how did you adjust coming from high school? Now you in college. Just how was that transition between running in high school and not running in college?
I mean, I was by myself. You know, like in college you don't have nobody like, all right, you gotta get up, you gotta go here, you gotta go there, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. It's like in college, like everything's fair game. Go eat what you want, sleep when you want. You can choose not to go to class, but you know, then you'll be ineligible and then you can't run. So, you know, then it's more stuff that's on you if you don't do what you're supposed to do. So that really wasn't my problem. I think my problem was more so the training. Because the training you do in high school is totally different from the training you do in college. So you gotta adjust to that. And I think that's what had to happen for me. My freshman year, I didn't adjust. Like I was running 56s, and then my first year in college, I was running 59s, and I was just like, "Yo, what is this?" I ran 56 so easy, I can do it in my sleep. But now I'm running 59s, like something ain't right. So the same thing I tell the athletes that I coach now is like, you gotta buy in. You gotta buy in on the system, and you gotta buy in on the training. You can't stay thinking about what you did in high school because that's what's gonna hold you back, right? Because I was like, I didn't do this in high school. We didn't do this. I was doing other stuff, and I ran 56. You got me doing all this extra stuff to run a 56? No, there's no way possible. Like you're tripping,
Right.
And I feel like because I was thinking like that, that's what held me back. And then my sophomore year is when I really started to buy in, and then that's when my time started dropping, and I was getting to the 54s and stuff like that. So, I think that's the biggest thing is actually buying in and not thinking or keeping the mindset of how things used to be instead of buying into where things are right now.
That training piece, woo!
I was about to talk about it too.
Yeah. Look, my introduction, I remember the conditioning was just different on a whole nother level. Okay? Like I was like running track before I got to college. I'm like, all right, I'm trying to make the mile. Like I'm coming in at 8 minutes. Like, all right, I'm ready. I think the first day of practice, like I passed out. Like passed out. Because I didn't realize how intense it was gonna be. The intensity that you had, like you have to keep the level of intensity consistent for the entirety of the practice. And I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
Not ready for it at all. Plus, I came in eating whatever I wanted to. I'm from the Bronx, like bodegas on every corner. Like I'm eating bacon, egg, and cheese. I'm drinking 24-ounce Arizonas. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to be eating and drinking. And I didn't know at the time that also affected my performance. Man, I got a total wake-up call. Like, Chanteé.
No, I mean, it's the same. Like, I came in overweight. It's the same thing. Came in overweight, thinking I was going to be able to do the same thing. Absolutely not. Huffing and puffing every day in college for my freshman year. Dropped like 40 pounds at the end of it because I started getting too scared to eat because I knew I was going to have to run in practice. So it's a shell shock. You go in thinking that this is what worked for me last year or those last 4 years. This should work here. And then it smacks you in your face. And I
Yeah.
think it is important to have those conversations, yeah, like with student athletes and yeah, just early on so that the expectation is clear.
Yeah.
Because I think even though social media is great, it obviously it benefits these student athletes, but they do need people in their corner that's going to keep it real with them and let them know really
100%.
early on. And so we commend you for doing that with the athletes that you do coach. Brittany, did you have any questions before
I just want to say, like, Chauntiel, is that like a hard conversation to have with your athletes or your clients when you have to keep it real with them and tell them the truth?
Not really. Because when you build that relationship, it's easier to say what you have to say and they know that it's coming off genuinely. Now, if you just beat somebody and you're like, yo, you suck. Like, you need to lose some weight, or you need to work on that jumper or something, or you say you want to be fast, but you're not training like you want to be fast. Like, I feel like saying stuff like that, there's levels to it, right? Because you have to fill out the person first. You got to see how they're going to react to certain things first before you just go in and just say whatever you want to say, right? Um, because that can steer somebody away from you. You know, things could go totally left field.
Right.
So for me, it's building that relationship first, and then making sure that everything that you say, you're saying it genuinely, um, and that's from top to bottom, whether it's good or bad. Like I try to tell Diamond, if it's anything, like, hey, I'm gonna tell you direct, and I'm gonna tell you genuinely, and it's not gonna be nothing that's like off the wall.
Right. Love that.
So I guess we can move a little bit into like the latter years in college. Like during this time period, well, I just want to know, like, let's just jump to it. How did you even start your sports agency? Like, what happened? Like, when did you come to the conclusion, like, I want to become an agent?
It's funny because I tell people all the time it fell in my lap. I didn't know what a sports agent was. I didn't. There's sports agents in Fort Wayne, but I didn't know that they were sports agents because who's in that world? Like, who's just gonna talk to somebody that's a sports agent? Not me. Like, I'm not worried about none of that at all. So I'm in college, and you know, I always was trying to figure out what was the next thing to do, right? Like, how can I still be in sports and still be able to make an impact, right? So high school, I thought I was going to the WNBA. That didn't happen. And then was running track. You know, I thought I was fast. Then I realized people were a lot faster. You know, I thought I was going to the Olympics, and I was like, yeah, this definitely not about to be a thing. So then after, you know, figuring out all that, I'm like, okay, what's next? Right? I'm not going to the W. I'm not running the Olympics. What's about to happen? Um, so I was talking to my advisor, and still don't know how the sports agency thing came about. Not at all. And somehow I just got on LinkedIn and started looking up sports agents. Still don't know how, why, where it came from. Just started doing it. And then a few of them started answering back. And then one of them answered back, and I got an internship from. And that's how I got my um, internship with a small agency down in Dallas. And then from there was a law professor that went to that was teaching at Indiana Tech, and my college advisor introduced me to him, and come to find out he was actually an NFL agent at the same time. So ended up talking to him, and the one question he asked me was, you know, why do you want to be a sports agent? And I think he was expecting me to he was expecting me to say, you know, I'm just trying to get paid, I want the money. I want the Jerry Maguire, show me the money, you know? And I didn't say that. Right? I said, you know, I'm getting into this because I want to change the narrative. I want to help athletes, you know, be in control of their careers, not taken advantage of and just out here doing whatever. But at the same time, I did not know what an actual sports agent was. Because again, I'm still figuring this out. But I'm saying this not knowing what an actual sports agent does, right? So him listening to that, he said, okay, because I've listened to you and I know how invested you are in this without even really knowing what's going on, I'm going to help you. So he took the time. I'm still in school, mind you. I'm still in running track. And I'm going to his office. We're going over contracts. We're looking into being a sports agent. I'm learning the whole nine with him. Just after class, in between classes. Um, so he's teaching me about contracts. He helped me get my agency registered with the state of Indiana, all of that. Like he helped me figure out the name and everything. So yeah, everything really happened in like a year and a half span time. And again, this is without me knowing anything about being a sports agent.
That is, first of all, a blessing. Whoever
Yeah.
that agent was to assist you, because that rarely happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in the sports world or just business world in general, there's a lot of like gatekeeping,
Oh yeah.
right? Like gatekeeping the information. And that's amazing that somebody heard you and wanted
Mm-hmm.
to help you. That
Yeah.
rarely happens, right? Um, but then to walk you through everything too.
Yeah, that's fire.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah, no, that's a blessing. Like, so how was it like having to manage being a student athlete and now starting your business? Like,
An aspiring sports agent.
yeah, like was it difficult to balance in the beginning? I know that you mentioned you were meeting with him, the NFL agent, the law professor after class, but was it hard to balance all of those things in the beginning?
Not really. Only because I was just figuring everything out. So I didn't know what was going on. I was learning as I went. So it wasn't difficult at all. I don't think it got difficult until like year 4 or year 5, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, you know? And I really had to like, all right, let's lock in. Let's try and figure out, let's go to every agent school or whatever the case we can get into to figure this out, right? Because like I said, there was a sports agent that was in Fort Wayne, and I was trying to reach out to him while I was in college, to get more mentors than the one that I had. And um right when I was getting ready to reach out to him, like I was reaching out to him, but he wasn't like getting back to me. He was one of the top dogs. He had like Deion Sanders and all them. So um the crazy part is like right as I was trying to get a hold of him, he had passed away. Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, well, okay. Um Interesting behavior. Um
Yeah.
so then I had to pivot again because it's like, all right, now the only sports agent that I did know in Fort Wayne is gone. So now I have to try and figure out how I'm gonna maneuver and find somebody who can actually tell me what I'm supposed to be doing because I don't know. So like I said, it wasn't difficult at first because I was still learning. I was still trying to figure out the concept of everything. But later down the line, that's when it started getting a little more difficult.
I didn't know if you had if you wanted to jump in, Britt.
Nah, I just like I feel like you didn't have any like difficulty in the beginning because it was so new to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like this is new, so I'm getting my feet wet essentially.
Yep.
So you ain't know what you really ain't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That so but like we're starting to see this trend of like good evening former player led agencies essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like you're in that space. Just kind of mentioning on time agency, right? Like with Ramon Sessions and Tisha Panachero, Valor Agency with Jermaine O'Neal. Like, why do you think that is becoming a thing now? Like, because all these other agencies still exist, right? These big guys, the Wassermans, the CAAs, like, so why do you feel like it's time for niche boutique agencies such as yourself to kind of to take advantage of the times. Like, why are y'all having some success right now, in your opinion?
So for me, it's the fact that a lot of the it was my bad. It muted. No, but I think for me it's the fact that a lot of athletes have been through it already. Like they've seen it done already, right? So they know what they've been through and they know what other athletes shouldn't have to go through. Right. So that's why a lot of these athletes are getting in, trying to be sports agents and stuff like that. But at the same time, the big time agents are either trying to take advantage of them or they're just trying to use them as a stepping stone, right? So it's probably like for the most part it's probably like they'll be like, oh well, I have this athlete on my roster, right? And it's just a clout chaser, you know. That's all it is, just saying, hey, I just got this person on my roster, but it really doesn't matter what I can do for that person, right? Just to say you got them, right? So that's a huge thing too. Is that a lot of these big agencies are just grabbing people just to have them, and a lot of these other athletes know, or a lot of these athletes have came from these agencies and are now trying to grow that, and help these athletes understand what's going on in the agency world at the most part.
Yeah, I feel like just piggybacking off what you said about the clout chasing. Essentially, it's like a lot of lack of integrity. We're both happy. Like, I think I can speak for us all. Like, we're all happy. Like, now I'm getting into like the NIL talk. Like, NIL is great. We wish, as previous student athletes, we could have benefited off of that too and made some bread. I'm gonna be honest. But on the flip, like on the not so glamorous side, there's a lot of student athletes that are being taken advantage of, right? Whether that be from coaches wanting clout. Um, Deion Sanders just talked about this the other day about, parents coming up to him talking about, what can you do for me? My child is getting a bag. I need a bag too. Like, what are your thoughts about that? It is the water is murky, right? It's murky right now with NIL. So what are your opinions about that?
I mean, it's wild the type of things that are going on now with NIL, where, like you said, the parents are like, what can you do for me, right? And then if you can't do something for the parents, then it's like my athlete's not going there. Like my child's not going there. Like if you can't do anything for me, then my child's not going there. And then at the same time, you gotta think like, but is this for your child or is this for you, right? Because a lot of the money is not guaranteed, right? You still gotta do your part, you know. And a lot of this stuff is the collectives, right? They'll say, well, we'll give you 30,000, but one, you can't transfer. Okay. So if you're not getting playing time, you're screwed. So it's just like it's crazy, how people are like thinking and trying to get over on the athletes, from the parents to the coach that was in high school to the friend that stays down the street or an old teacher or whatever the case may be. They're all trying to grab something, right? So like you said, like it's good for them to have someone that's in their corner, who's going to always be genuine with them, always tell the truth, and always keep their interests first more than anything. So like you said, they're out there trying to grab everything.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. Wait, Brittany, you was about to say something?
I'm just shaking my head because I could probably not even imagine what you've seen, Chauntiel. Like already. Because we already know the stories, like hearing it from like professional athletes, right? Like when they finally make it and like they're like the sole breadwinner, and everybody's coming after them, right? Like they gotta spend money for Pookie and them. They gotta, like seriously, it's like when you make it, the illusion that people have, like just seeing this, like, right? They doing NIL valuations now, right? Florget is like top 4. She's making $1 million or something like that. Like I could imagine, like when she goes back home, like to visit, like how many people are coming to her with their hands out, not knowing that $1 million valuation, all that stuff is locked up in investments already. Like that's not liquid. Like she could just go to her ATM and pull out the money and give it to you. Like I don't know if our communities understand like just the dealings behind the scenes. Like
They
so
don't.
like, and it's just always like it just befuddles us like when we see that behavior, because it's like this is a young kid now in college and they have to deal with that earlier. And most of the time, they don't even know how to manage the money that they're getting. So the parents,
they see dollar signs.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. But I guess I would like to know, once you started your agency, who was your first client, and was it difficult for you to get your first client?
So believe it or not, getting the clients is the easy part, right? Because you could sign anybody. Like literally, you could sign anybody. Now the question is it the right person for you to be signing? That's the question. Now the first person I signed was actually somebody from my hometown. Probably shouldn't have done it. But early stages, you live and you learn, right? So I ended up signing this athlete from Fort Wayne. Got them overseas. I think they were in Mexico, I believe. Talking to the coach. The coach is like, this girl's wild. I'm like, what you talking about? Like, man, she's in the club. She's smoking weed. She's drinking alcohol. I'm like, you say what?
Oh, well.
I'm like, what happened? And then come to find out, the girl messages me and she's like, I gotta get out of here. They said sex trafficking or something like that. And I'm like, sex trafficking?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, you didn't tell your part of what you did, but now you want to get out for sex trafficking. I'm like, I think there's a misunderstanding. So she said she read a message and used Google Translate to figure out what they said. And I said, yo, I know you did not hear correctly.
That is,
yeah.
but it's important to choosing the right client has to be,
yeah.
That's something I've had conversation with Brittany about.
The right
even
fit.
as a lawyer.
The right fit. The right fit.
The right fit. And then like so I understand. Okay, so that happened. And then has it been difficult
after that though,
Mm-hmm.
like I was still, and I think a lot of new agents will go through this. Probably not now because of the NIL stuff that's going on, but you would be like, I want to help everybody. I want to give everybody a chance to, get to play overseas or whatever the case may be, right? You want to be the messiah to everybody. And I had to learn early that you can't help everybody. Everybody cannot be helped. And even if you was to try and help everybody, at the end of the day, you still have a company to run. And you still need some form of a payment somewhere. So it was to a point where you're going after athletes who, if they go overseas, they're probably making $800 a month, maybe, and 10% of that, that good old agent fee, $80 a month, it's like, eh, I don't know if, I'm doing
Yeah.
a lot for
Yeah.
$80 a month, it don't really make sense to me. So that was another thing that I had to figure out was I can't help everybody.
That's a real. Go ahead, Brittany.
So like after that experience, did you like kind of set up like some type of criteria for you to now vet clients?
Yeah. Had to set up a whole database to figure out, all right, these are the type of athletes that go overseas. These are the type of athletes that get into, the Italies, the France, the Finlands, the Poland, stuff like that, just based off of stats, right? Because if you look at somebody's stats and they probably scored like 1,000 points or whatever, and then you compare their stats to somebody else's stats, and then somebody else stats says like Czech Republic or Finland or something like that, then you're like, so that means you're probably going to be making somewhere around 800, maybe 1,000 a month, maybe. So then you gotta analyze that and be like, am I really going to invest my time and get my money back on this? Like you have to ask yourself those questions because
What's the
otherwise,
I'm
ROI?
about to say return on investment. You want a
exactly.
return, so yes.
So at the end of the day, yes, you want to help people, but you still have to make a profit. Like you still have a business to run. So I think that was pretty much the main thing is just pretty much like you said, just figuring out the type of athletes that we want to go after and the type of athletes that are going to help build the agency up for the most part.
And can you talk to us a little bit about your journey to like actually sit down, take the exams necessary to become an agent? Like, what does that process look like? Was it a difficult one? Was it a expensive one? Um, yeah.
So funny or not, I got my WNBA one first. Um Blessed that I didn't have to take the test. Amen. Uh
Amen.
Amen, somebody.
uh and then because I was WNBA certified, I did not have to sit and take the FIBA test. So that's two tests I didn't have to take. But I did try to take the USATF test for track and field. That one, it was expensive. That's all I can remember. I think it was like 1,600 maybe. Nope, it was $800. It was $800 to take the test. And I took this right after I had graduated from college. So this was like 2016, 2017. Had to go to Dallas to take the test. 50 questions, multiple choice, open note, open book. I think that's the worst. Open note, open book. Because
Yes. It's
if
a
if
trap.
it's not, yes, and if it's not set up correctly, you will be doing this for 2 hours. Where I've seen it somewhere and I just can't find it now. Little do you know, a whole hour went by and you've only answered 10 questions. Ugh.
Right.
So you're like, this can't be. Like this is impossible. And the crazy thing is, with doing all that, I missed that the test, like I missed 6 questions out of 50. Like I think you could only miss 4 and I had missed 6. And it was like through all that, and I was too off. I'm like, y'all could have just gave it to me at that point.
Right.
Jesus.
Like, let's be real.
No, they might as well have.
So that was
Because,
like
no.
that was like the hardest one I've taken.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about having to, you just said you took that exam right after graduating. So not for nothing, $800 is still a lot of money coming
Oh
out of
yeah.
school. You don't have a job. I'm assuming you still was living at home. $800 is a lot. And then on top of that, you say you had to travel to Dallas to take the exam. So that's another expense, right? And we're having these conversations because, well, even with track and field, because I did some digging, because I'm not super familiar with track and field. There's not many, first of all, black, it's male dominated, white
Oh
male
yeah.
dominated space. And there's not a lot of black female coaches in the college space, from what I understand. Um, and I want to know, do you think that, having these, like, because I think that's a form of gatekeeping, making things
Mhm.
expensive so that black and brown people can't necessarily enter into those spaces. And I wanted to
Yeah.
know just your thoughts around that, considering the numbers are so low, obviously, for um, black women in track and field.
Mhm.
And then again, just piggybacking off what you said with having to travel, the amount of money you had to pay and things of that nature, just what your thoughts are about that.
So what I've learned over time is you're gonna go after what you want to go after, right? So if you want those J's, okay, you're gonna save up for those J's. You are. You want the fours and the breads and stuff like that. You're going to save up for when the drop comes. I feel like we just think different. We want those J's. We would rather have those J's. And I feel like we just gotta change
Chauntiel,
it up.
I
I
wish I had a
just
clap
seen, yes.
down.
Come on, we needed like a buzzer for something like that, because literally just seen a video the other day with us lined up for the Jordan 5s that had just been re-released. People fighting in the store for the sneakers.
Lines wrapped.
The mindset.
They get up at 5, 3 in the morning for a pair of J's to be in
Mhm.
line. They won't get up that early to go to work.
No, you're
Right.
right. And how do you, so with that being said, because we absolutely agree with you, these are conversations we have all the time on this podcast, on this outlet. But like, how do you instill that mental into your clients and your like the student athletes that you're coaching? Like, how do
Um,
you get that across?
I mean, I pretty much tell them that nothing's going to be handed to you at all. And even what I tell the NIL athletes is even the professional athletes is I can only do so much. I don't get you the job. You get you the job. So even with NIL, like the work you do on social media gets you the job. If you're not doing anything on social media, you're not getting the job. Same thing with you playing professionally. If you don't have the stats, what do you want me to sell? That you're a great person? You're a great person. You're a good person to be around. Tells the best jokes. Oh my god! Like you got to hear this person tell a joke. And I think that's like worth 300,000 right there. Like, and you should go get that person. They're gonna be like, yeah, no. Why would we do that? We need somebody who's gonna help us win championships, and telling us jokes is not gonna get us there, right? So it's like, and I think that's where a lot of athletes and a lot of NIL people get things completely wrong. They think that as the agent, we're we're getting the jobs and the opportunities for you, which you're right and you're wrong at the same time because we can only do so much. Because if you're not doing your part, how can we do our part? Right? So it's like you can like I said, you could be the best person in the world, but if your stats are horrible, if you're riding the bench and you're a great person and you're still expecting to go first round in the WNBA draft pick. That's what you want. And that's what you're expecting me to give to you, but your stats say otherwise. So now you're mad at me because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So now you go and you switch agents. And you go to an agent who promises to do this, that, third. And you're like, oh yeah, this is great. I need all that. And then you sign with them and you're like, what happened? I thought I was going to get this, and this. Nope, you're sitting at home. Because your stats were not what you thought they were. Right? So I feel like that's what it is. Like, you have to be able to know that you have to put something in to get something out. Like, it's a partnership at the end of the day.
Definitely agree. Definitely agree. Because now, I mean, we talked about social media early on and how prominent and like at the core of NIL, that is important, right? You have to have a social media presence. That's something that Brittany and I talk about all the time now. Can you talk a little bit about how you're reaching out or communicating to prospective clients? Like, is it now like NIL clients? Is it through social media? Because we're hearing a lot more often than before. College coaches are in DMs. They're on Twitter. Twitter's a hot box for basketball, right? For college for college athletes now. So like, are you doing the same? Like, and how has things changed? How have things changed, like communication wise, from 2020 when you started all the way up until now?
Yeah, I think when I first started, social media really wasn't. You couldn't really talk to them on social media. Like, if a coach found out that you was talking to one of the athletes on social media, it was like World War III. Like, especially if they didn't know who you were, they were like, "You can't talk to them. Don't talk to them." Like stuff like that. But now you can reach out to an athlete on Instagram and be like, "Hey, what's up?" And I mean, they can either say "Hey" back and start the conversation, or they can just leave you on red and not talk to you at all. Like, that's just how things go. Like, now you can like literally talk to them on social media. You can reach out to them on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram or even Threads or whatever the case may be. Like, you have so many ways to talk to these athletes now. Whereas when I first started, that was illegal. So it's a lot more lenient now.
Brittany, did you have a question?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. So just moving more into just your business. So you had like, can you talk to us a little bit about some of the quote unquote rough patches you may have run into very early on, as you were still getting your business off the ground and finding the perfect client or finding the perfect athletes that you wanted to work with?
Yeah. So I think early on when I first started, um, after dealing with the first client and stuff like that, I think the next thing was reaching out to athletes and going against all the bigger agencies. They're like, what athletes do you have? Do you have any athletes overseas? Do you have any WNBA athletes? And then because you're fresh, you're fresh meat in this, and you tell them no, they're like, oh, okay, all right. Gone. They done ghosted me already. So it was like, that was the start, right? And it was like, all right, something got to give, right? So then you had to figure out who the athlete was so that you can speak directly to the athlete, and let them know that you had their best interests and stuff like that. But again, you have those agents where they're like, I can get you a modeling deal, do this, that, and the third. I can get you in the W, this, that, and the third. And you're like, you really can't, but Sure, go for it. So you're up against people like that. Like you're up against people who will lie their ways to the top, lie their ways to, stealing a client or whatever the case may be. But then you're also going against the big people like your CAAs and your Wazermans and your clutch and stuff like that. Like you have to fight against that now, right? Um so that's that for the most part is just pretty much trying to figure out um who you're actually going up against. Like they always say, like know who your competition is, right? So that you can, tailor what you need to say to those athletes specifically, knowing who you're going up against. So that's that. And then just like I said, just figuring out who the athlete is, what the athlete stands for. Um I look at character. I look at it if you're into giving back to your community, like what type of person are you, you know, outside of this sport. Like that's the type of stuff that we look at before we, try and sign anybody for like NIL or professionally for the most part.
And when did you realize you needed to grow, like actually build a team? So in the beginning, you were doing this all on your own. And when did it start getting a little bit like, when did you start realizing, like, okay, it's getting busy. I can't do this on my own. I know for me, it's hard for me to delegate tasks out from time to time. You get used to doing things on your own. But after a while, God is going to hit you on your head like, girl, you need some
Yeah.
help. So
Amen.
when did you realize you actually needed help? And then how did you seek out your team?
I want to say it probably was 4 years in, and then that's when I started. Like my whole thing was I wanted to be able to bring people up with me, um, and teach people what I didn't know. Because again, I didn't have anybody who was in the city who knew about it that I knew, right? So I wanted to be that person for the people that were still in my community. So I started doing internships for people who, and I still do them for people that's in high school, as well as people who are in college and trying to figure out if they want to be a sports agent or not, or a graphic designer, or marketing, or whatever the case may be. Um, so I do internships that way also to try and give them the opportunity to try and learn the business before they actually get into it. So I do it that way. And then um, we added a lawyer on, and then uh, and marketing for the most part.
And those two are important, obviously.
Very.
And yeah, you learn that really quickly. That
Those lawyers, I
they're
tell you,
important. Yeah.
they
Don't be
save
coming.
you.
No, they do.
No,
Listen, we do.
I,
We
that's
do.
what I said.
I
Listen,
must say,
God
don't be
saved us.
bashing us.
No,
I know we got a man rep.
nah, they be saving us. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, Brittany, do you have any questions?
Let me see. Have athletes reached out to you, Chauntiel, to
always,
come on, always?
always.
Oh yeah, I like
Big
that.
dog. Chauntiel's like, I'm a big dog.
No,
Let me
not
stop.
at all. Not at all.
No. But that is dope that they do reach out. And obviously they want to them to have to want to work with you.
Yeah,
Um, is a big deal.
yeah,
Because something that you're doing and what you're communicating, how you come off, is resonating with them.
yeah.
Which is important.
Yeah, I will say it's 50-50 though. Like a lot of the times when it's athletes that reach out to you, a lot of times they're not, you know, the type of
Mm-hmm.
athletes that you want to work with. But sometimes it is, right? But when with that other 50%, if it's not the type of athlete you want to work with, then you have to be that person and be like, it's not a good fit, but I can send you to somebody who might be interested, and do it that way. So yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, a lot athletes do reach out and ask for representation both NIL and professionally. So
Nice. Can you talk to us a little bit how you managed to get Diamond and Mimi on your team?
Well, when Diamond was at NC State, um, one of her sisters reached out to me, and said, Diamond, this was right before NIL had become a thing. And they were like, Diamond's looking for, NIL representation and stuff like that. So I was talking to them on and off, telling them what we could possibly do for Diamond and stuff like that. Um, and then we ended up getting Diamond. So I talked to Diamond. Um, we were all cool, we'd be spreading our Philly lingo around. So she got me saying John a lot. Great. Indiana vibing, saying John all the time. Uh it's great. um but then Diamond ended up transferring to Norfolk State, and Mimi was there. And they talked and stuff like that, and Mimi seeing how things were going with Diamond, and um we also talked with Mimi, and she agreed to come aboard.
That's dope. That's fire. And I love the culture clashing and everything. I love it.
Facts. Did she say bull a lot? Because I know that's also another like Philly, like you're a young bull. Some I don't know. Maybe the guys say more.
I feel like I might have heard her say that like a couple times, but like we have Philly athletes on our track team, and they will say something to me, and I'd be like, nah, I ain't hear Diamond say that. I don't know about that one. Like one of them came up to me, they was like, yeah, Yaminsky. I said, no, I don't know nothing about no Yaminsky. Let me go ask Diamond about Yaminsky, because I don't know. Yeah, listen, it's the new generation, so they just saying stuff. So I was like, Diamond, you be using the word Yaminsky? She said, nah, I don't use that.
Gotta check in with her.
Yeah.
I don't blame you, because I ain't up on all that. I don't blame you.
So I mean, ever since Diamond has been on the team, man, John has become one of my best words here.
I love that. What are some of the most difficult deals that you've had to close, if you ever had a difficult deal to close?
I wouldn't say they were difficult. I would say it took some work. Like, and again, going back to the NIL thing, like you can, especially because like when you have an athlete who is HBCU, right? Don't get the coverage that they deserve, and you're trying to reach out to brands and get all these opportunities, and they're like, oh, okay. But I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you have someone who could potentially be a WNBA draft pick. You have someone who has played at Rutgers, has played at NC State, has played is playing at Norfolk State, but has played against some of the biggest names in college basketball, right? And has done great things against those big teams as well. But yet and still, you still don't want to work with that person. And it's only because of the market that the person is in. I feel like that's the hardest thing. Is trying to sell that. But I also say, um, just going back to the social media thing, like it's hard to also sell what's not there, right? So, say for example, if you have an athlete, um, and all they post is the basketball stuff. Like I've had several marketing execs and brand managers say like, we look at their social media, and if the only thing that we see is like their sport, we're not seeing anything. Like they're not showing that they do anything outside of their sport. And if that's all we have to go off of, then we're probably not going to choose that person. So it's like now you're going against that, and then a lot of people have to understand that you're not only going against a whole bunch of other athletes in this college world, but you're also trying to fight out professional athletes as well for these deals. So that's what that is for the most part.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something Brittany and I have talked about before. Just getting and having conversations with student athletes about showcasing their personality. So, what's interesting, and I could be wrong because I don't know, and I would love to hear your opinion about it. Like, yes, stats are important, but then we'll see student athletes getting deals more so because of the personality that they make available for viewing on their social media. They may not be a star, no disrespect, they may not be a starter, they may not get in the game most of the they may ride the bench, but their personality is so great and they do great marketing on social media that they're getting deals left and right. So it's just, I don't know. Like, would you say that the stats, like, would you say the stats and the personality piece with social media are like 50-50 and both are needed, like, to be equal? Or okay.
Well, like you said, it depends on the person. Like if your personality is like great, like you have a great personality, you have, let's say, 60,000 followers, but you ride the bench. At the end of the day, they don't care. They're looking for, what we say, ROI. They're looking for return on investment. That's it. And if you have the 60,000 followers and you're showing people your personality and you're showing that you're using certain brands or their brand in your posts, so like that, they're like, well, she's already using it. We've already seen it. Like we've already seen her use our brand and what her audience thinks of our brand. So we're gonna go after that person. But if they don't have nothing to go off of, then they're like, nah, I guess we gotta rely on the stats because we don't really see no personality at all. We just see the stats. That's it.
Yeah, and it's really incredible to me how like not a lot of student athletes are taking advantage of the opportunity to showcase themselves. It's like they leaving money on the table. Y'all are literally leaving money on the table. So like 2 weeks ago, I was just scrolling and I seen, because I'm on YouTube all the time, just looking at other pages and looking at what student athletes are doing. So like I seen or how they're showcasing their personalities, right? Like I watched a video of KK Arnold walk us through UConn's practice facility. You know, her personality is big, so everybody loves KK, right? So I was like, can I find somebody who's not really that known, who's also taking advantage of this? So I happened to stumble upon the USC Trojans, right? One of the top teams in the nation. They have a player by the name of Dominique Darius. She plays maybe 8 minutes. She don't really play. But homegirl has 4,000 followers on YouTube. Okay? And she is uploading videos weekly. And giving us inside looks at what it looks like on a day, practice day, what it looks like on game day, like inside access that we normally would not get. And I'm just like, she gets it.
Yeah.
She gets it. But why don't what do you think is like the block here that these student athletes are not taking advantage and leveraging what they have right now? Is it because they think it's like sweet and this is not gonna end? Like I'm gonna have this attention forever? Like what do you think is the gap? Why are they not taking advantage of just using the school and kind of making a name for themselves?
They think it's a job. They think they have to go out of their way to make social media posts. That's what it is. Because they're like I tell people all the time, just record yourself doing what you already do. Like it's not you doing anything extra. You're already doing it. You just putting a phone in front of you. That's it. That's really it.
I mean, you already do TikTok dances. Y'all already doing TikTok. But you're not going to. But it's a job for you. You're promoting yourself. It is you. Like, it is you. I guess I feel like that's kind of like I don't know, the privilege of the athlete, the entitlement of an athlete. Like, we think that stuff is just gonna happen for us. Yeah. And other people gonna do the work for us.
Yeah.
And we ain't gotta do nothing.
That goes back to me saying they want the deals, they want the contracts. But if your stats don't say it, and if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, don't expect us to go and get it for you.
Understood.
No, that makes sense. And I hope the student athletes that are listening, if any, are picking up these gems and these jewels. Because it sounds like math, right? It you got to put the work in. Because you do. You got to put the work in to get the return. So hope somebody listening. I guess my only question left for you is, Chauntiel, is there anything, this may not be the final question, but is there anything you feel like you could have done differently, or you would have done differently throughout the course of your career? You're still very early in your business. You've done amazing things, but is there anything that you would have done differently had you had, I guess, the experience or the information at the time?
I probably would have waited a little bit longer. Probably would have took my time. When you become an agent, you feel like you have to have an athlete right there and right there. Otherwise, you're not a sports agent. They always say you're not an agent unless you have a client. So I think me trying to rush and hurry up and get a client and not figure everything out first is probably what I would have changed.
I think that's solid advice, especially now with, I feel like just how the world is set up. Nobody wants to miss out, right?
Yep.
I still experience that. It's FOMO. There's a fear of missing out, like, and you don't want to miss that ship. So I could definitely it resonates. What you said. But you've been doing, I want to say you've been doing an amazing job in such a short period of time. And for you to be so young, seriously, and a Black woman, you've been doing an amazing job. Picking up these clients and then coaching, wearing many hats. That's how we came up with 21 titles, because we really speak to just the many titles that athletes and previous athletes have. Like, nobody is just an athlete. We're all balanced in many different things, and you've done a lot in a very short period of time, and we just wanted to give you your flowers for that. And then also, I didn't know if you had any advice for any student athletes listening about how they can maybe get NIL deals, or just any advice you would want to give to any student athletes listening from high school to even college.
I would say same thing I tell my clients: keep the main thing the main thing. At this point, don't try to make it a job. Just do what you've normally been doing. You walk to class, just record it. Like, you have daily talks to yourself on your way to class, just record it. As long as it's nothing crazy. But but yeah, just keep the main thing the main thing. Have fun, enjoy your years. And And if you want the deals, you gotta do the work. But again, keep the main thing the main thing.
The main thing, right? Brittany, do you have anything?
Chauntiel, I just want to say thank you for your time. Like, seriously, this time was invaluable. I know you got 10,000 things that you're doing, that you're juggling. So for you to take an hour and a few more minutes is, we're very appreciative of that. And just a question for me, because I'm a health and wellness professional. What keeps you grounded? How do you stay grounded? Because I know that this space is constantly changing, constantly shifting, highs and lows. So how do you stay grounded, kind of stay centered to continue to do the miraculous work that you kind of do?
I would say it's my faith, my family, and the difference I want to make in my community.
Come on, community. That's a big word for us. Like, we know it's been like one of them words, just like how, I don't know, equity and all that stuff is kind of flying around. But like, community is really a big deal for us because, like Chanteé mentioned earlier in the show, like, we played basketball together. We're from the Bronx. Like, we come from humble beginnings. So a lot of people poured into us to get to where we're at today. So to hear that you say that community keeps you grounded, family, that's what we are about. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. And that is all we have for today, y'all. Chauntiel, again, so appreciative and very informative. Thank you for just sharing all of that information with us. We loved having you on. Hopefully, again, student athletes are listening because a lot of gems was dropped from top to bottom. So thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, seriously. So
yeah, Chauntiel, where can people find you? Can you
I'm about to say
state, Instagram, IG, whatever you got?
yeah.
So everything is Agent CSJ. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Yeah, everything is Agent CSJ.
Okay, I heard it. Agent CSJ. Hit her up. Her DMs are open, like she said. But that's our show for today. Again, this is Beyond the 9450, brought to you by the 9450. Please follow us at the 9450 at 21 Titles, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.